good with this moving this case now, Chris? Relax. The best was that's going like good. So he was just late, yeah.
Are you Jimmy? I'm Sal. Nice to meet you. Yes, here. I'm with the IG. I've been working with your colleagues, Eileen and Sasha, everybody. Great. I can only
Everybody, thanks for coming out this afternoon. My apologies for the delay. It's been an eventful afternoon. I'm here with, gathering behind me just now, colleagues from local government, federal government, and provincial government, and Indigenous leadership. All of us really working together to support people in this incredibly traumatic and difficult time. We just landed from a helicopter tour of West Kelowna and Lake Country, and the devastation for families that have clearly lost everything, homes burned to the ground. It will be some time recovering for community members and for so many affected individuals. But what was also evident is, even if we get to a couple hundred homes that are lost and families hurt by this, it was the heroic efforts of our firefighting crews. Municipal fire departments were visible from the air, working on the ground. BC Wildfire Service working in the woods, helicopters dropping water to save homes. You could see the fire lines burning right up to the edge of homes. You could see the fire retardant that had been sprayed to save homes and structures in the area. Just incredible work. And the feedback that I kept getting from the teams on the ground, whether municipal, provincial, federal resources, was how well everybody was working together to save property, to save lives. It's just incredible and remarkable and very moving. Visited an emergency response center. Saw people working from Ontario, from British Columbia, and looking forward to visiting the ESS here to hear from people in the community. I think that we're certainly not out of the woods, but I'm really heartened by what I saw in terms of cooperation on the ground.
What sort of support will the province be providing to the people of this community, both in the short term and in the longer term, as critical infrastructure needs to be rebuilt and the tourism sector needs to get services? What will the province be doing?
Yeah, I know there's a huge amount of stress and frustration for families who have been asked to leave their homes, people who have been asked to give up vacation plans, people who have been directly impacted who know they've lost their home, people who still don't know whether or not their home is standing. This is such an awful time for so many people. I want to reassure people that I find it unacceptable that any person has to wait to get into a hotel to get the support they need. I've directed staff to make sure that we are getting supports to people wherever they are affected by evacuation orders. And that includes, we have brought on additional Service BC staff to call everybody to make sure that we're reaching out to everybody who's registered. They called 900 people yesterday. We have hotel rooms available. We're able to get people into hotel rooms if we're able to connect with them. And we're supporting the local government efforts here, which were overwhelmed by the massive number of people, more than 30,000 affected by evacuation orders in a very short, a remarkably short period of time. So I'm here to hear from people on the front line what they need, how the provincial government can provide better support, what their experience has been, to make sure we're delivering for them.
Do you have any timeline from what conversations you've had on the sort of recovery we're looking at here and how quickly people may be able to get into their homes?
Yeah, it feels strange to say because we're so obviously still in the middle of the crisis. When we flew over, we saw active fire in West Kelowna, still very close to many people's homes. But the work and the discussions and the efforts in partnership with the federal government, with First Nations and others on recovery has started already to make sure that we're going to have the supports in place for people as they return to their homes to be looked after and to start rebuilding, which will be some considerable time, but less than could have been thanks to the efforts of our firefighting crews. One of the structures that was saved was a $75 million water treatment plant that would have been devastating to the community had we lost it in West Kelowna. There's many examples like that of people's homes where the burn line goes right up to the house, and I'm grateful for that. But we know that there are lots of people who've lost everything, and we're going to be there to support them.
I know you've heard it when you were there in Hamlet today, that frustration, particularly for people who were evacuated from the swamp. We've spoken to a number of people up there saying they just feel like they were forgotten. There's a lot of anger. They refuse to leave. There's confrontations with authorities. What's your message to those folks who just are very upset with how this played out and just feel like their homes were not protected in the way they should have been?
Yeah, we've got more than 200 firefighters that are on that scene, municipal and wildfire fighters from the BC Wildfire Service that are working on that fire site. On the structure side, we have municipal teams that are helping save homes. In the bush, we have BC Wildfire Service that are helping to prevent the fire from spreading to more urban areas. I know it's awful. I can't imagine what it must feel like to feel like your home is threatened by fire, or to see homes burning in your community and be asked to leave and not stay behind and protect things that are precious to you and your family. The conflict for these families must be profound. What do you do in that situation? What we're asking is, please, it's not a light request from the fire service when they tell you to leave. It's to save your life, and it's to save the lives of first responders too, so that they don't have to go back in and rescue people from the jaws of the fire. And so we're asking people, please, we understand the difficulty, the challenge, how awful. We try to understand. We'll never understand unless it happens to us, but we try to understand. But please do listen to those first responders. We do need you to clear out of that area, and we need the lake to be clear. So if we get a chance to water bomb in that area, if the smoke clears, that we're able to seize it right away and not worry about boats being on the lake. It's just so important.
We're hearing from schools and sectors, specifically Thompson, about the areas like Oliver, Lives, Kentucky, and Summerlin, who aren't as affected, and we're curious if these September 4th travel that over the
Thanks. Yeah, I'll be turning it over to Minister Ma, the Minister for Emergency Response, to provide an update on the order. Her team has been working on that and with local communities. Regardless of what happens with the orders, it's just critical for people to be very sensitive to the needs of local communities. Some communities, obviously West Kelowna, Lake Country, are saying, please do not travel. We're asking you not to travel, to respect the needs of local communities. I'll turn it over to Minister Ma to give an update on the orders and oh yes, sorry, yep.
How much do you put down what is going on now to climate change, to man-made impacts on the environment?
Oh, I think that without a doubt, the ferocity of the fires, the extent of the burning, the historic nature of the forest fires we're seeing, not just here in British Columbia, but in Greece, in Nova Scotia, in the United States. It's just devastating fires that are clearly linked to human-caused climate change, and one of the reasons why our government is investing in climate preparedness to make sure that we're responsive. Why we have the wildfire service now, which used to be a seasonal force, working year-round, because the fire season is longer. It starts earlier, it goes later. We're in the 4th year of drought here in British Columbia that's making the fires so much worse. So it's a huge cause for concern that fire seasons like this are going to be more regular in British Columbia and other parts of Canada, and in areas that haven't seen forest fire like this before. I'll turn it over.
Given what you just said about the changing climate, are people in this province and in other parts of Canada just simply going to have to get used to living with these types of catastrophes for the foreseeable future?
Well, our government is taking steps to make sure that we're prepared for changing climate. We have a new ministry dedicated to not just emergency response, but also being prepared to prevent and to mitigate the impacts of these disasters when they happen. We are going to see more floods. We are going to see more forest fires. We are going to see rising ocean levels. And so to be prepared for that as a province, we're doing that work. We know the Government of Canada is also doing similar work along those lines, and it's absolutely critical. And it's things like building codes, making sure that we're ready, that it's fire resistant, flood ready, and it's also preparedness like having our wildfire crews on year round instead of just seasonally now. I'll turn it over to Minister Ma for an important announcement. Yes.
Just a question. There's people are still waiting for an hotel right now after 5 days, after fire. So would you say that your government failed by helping them quickly?
I say it's absolutely unacceptable that people have had to wait in their cars or have not been able to access hotel rooms. It's one of the reasons we put the emergency order in place, to make sure that hotel rooms are available for firefighters and for evacuees. We don't want people sleeping in their cars. We don't want them staying in large communal response centers. We want them to have some dignity in their moments of stress and tragedy, which is why we're doing this work. We have provided additional support in the form of Service BC employees calling through everybody who's registered to make sure we've waived requirements for administration to get people into hotel rooms. It is absolutely unacceptable that people would have to wait, and I've made that very clear to staff, and they are working to ensure that's true.
The people are waiting here for registration before, and they're not waiting, this is the second step in hotel So
Yes.
the problem seems to be here under this registration center.
Yeah, we had 30,000 people under evacuation notice in a period of about 24 hours, and it's a massive impact. And still, it's not acceptable that people wait. So I'm going to be going into the ESS. I'll be talking to people, making sure that we're responding to what they need.
Remy, what about setting up a framework for volunteers and members of the community, like in the shoe shop, to defend their own properties? That's what they've been doing. So.
Yeah. There's certainly opportunity for us to leverage community resources, First Nations, volunteers, and others. It's something that Australia does very well. We're constantly looking at ways to improve and expand our wildfire service response. Now, just before you wrap up, Minister Ma does have an important announcement to make in relation to the order that I would like for you to catch for your viewers and listeners, please.
Pardon me, give me a second to stabilize myself here. Thank you so much. I do want to start by thanking everybody who has complied with the travel advice and the orders. Extremely grateful to the support of the tourism sector for their compassion and their understanding. We know that these kinds of travel orders have an effect on their work as well and their livelihoods. I'm pleased to share that the emergency travel accommodation order has had the desired effect that we needed, opening thousands of hotel rooms up for first responders, for evacuees, for critical response personnel to be housed and in order to support people here and across the region in the wildfire response. And so because of these changes and because of this improvement in terms of availability of accommodations, we will be lifting the accommodation travel order effective midnight tonight for every community except for West Kelowna. Please do note that that travel accommodation emergency order will still apply in West Kelowna. We know that communities right across the interior are very, let's try that again. We know that communities right across the interior are looking forward to welcoming tourists back into their communities. Communities like the city of Kelowna is open for business for people to visit. However, we do ask that all travelers be very mindful that there are still fire-affected communities. So we have heard from communities like this West Kelowna in particular, Lake Country and the Shoe Shop, that now is not the time to visit them. So for tourists and travelers, please still continue to avoid non-essential travel to West Kelowna, to Lake Country, to the Shoe Shop, and to any other communities that are messaging out to the world that now is not the time to visit. But aside from those, we encourage travelers to recreate responsibly in all of the other communities that are looking to welcome people back into their communities for tourism and non-essential purposes. Just please be aware that the situation is still dynamic. There may still be changes. Pay attention to the BC Wildfire Service map for where the fires are. Check Drive BC before you go. Have an emergency kit, and let compassion and common sense lead you. Thank you. So the travel accommodation order will apply now to West Kelowna only, with additional strong recommendations to stay out of Lake Country, stay out of the Shoe Shop. That order currently expires September 4th, but we are working very closely with communities to be as agile as possible. We will only keep the order on for as long as it is necessary. So it is possible that we will remove it earlier, and if, knock on wood, situations change, we may expand it as well. It really does depend on the situation, the wildfire situation in the region. Yeah.
Thanks very much, everybody.